Well, thank you guys for doing this. I appreciate it. I know it's not all that fun sometimes, but it's great to have you guys here in Texas. For those of you watching, we're here with the McCurrys, and they serve with us in Kenya at Kapsowar Hospital. And so I want to take an opportunity to just chat with you guys a little bit and hear a little bit about what you're doing there. I got the chance to visit with you there, but we didn't get a chance to do this while I was there. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, what you've been out there for what, 5 years now? About 5 years. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give a new missionary family heading to the field?
One of the things that we kind of discussed that is always a discussion point in our house, it seems like, is boundaries. And I know it's a common topic in a lot of mission circles, or even when you're home in the ministry, or any profession really, but just the ability to try and set boundaries. I think a lot of mission setups are set up so that you live and work in very close proximity. So being able to separate yourself and being able to set yourself apart from when should I be working, when should I be at home, being with the family, or just resting and relaxing. There's been many times on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, someone who's not really welcome at that time of day or that day will show up without invitation, and it causes stress, and you're not really you're not finished working until you actually get out of Kapsowar, which I know that CHSC and other people really recommend quarterly getting away, which we also struggle with doing, but we have that goal to do. So that's boundaries is a big issue for us. We haven't mastered, but we're constantly.
It's tough to live, work where you live.
Yeah.
That certainly creates a lot of challenge. What do you think about that, Ashley? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I would agree with the boundaries. Just I think it's really important that you talk about it before you even get on the field, and then once you get there, then you can kind of reevaluate initially what you thought. But I think clear and achievable boundaries are important. Not just like we're going to rest when we can rest, but we're going to rest on Sundays, or if you're on call on Sunday, then we're going to rest on Monday afternoon, or whatever you can do. I think it needs to be clear and defined.
I'm the one that struggles with boundaries.
Mm-hmm. I also think that to new families that are going on the field for the first time, something that I learned slowly since we've been there is that missionary life isn't a cookie cutter life. So there are common things that work for a lot of families, but that doesn't mean that it will necessarily work for your family. So I would just say, as you get on the field, take the advice of other families, certainly, and try those things in your family. But if it doesn't work, that's okay. It's okay to sort of make your own set of rules or your own way of doing things. You don't have to be like every other family.
That's good counsel. What have been your biggest challenges since you moved to mission?
For me, I think learning to work in a limited resource setting and learning or adjusting, I guess, to being around so much more death than I was ever exposed to in the States. So, it took me several years to kind of adjust to that. And I think that the Lord provides. I don't think that you become numb. I think that the Lord gives you the strength to continue to endure that loss. And at times feeling like, could I have done something differently? Did I make the wrong choice? Or even just knowing, like, if this child was born on a different continent, he or she probably would have survived. And those sorts of, like, thoughts that just come in your mind, that's really hard. And nobody really teaches you what to do with that, because I just don't think you're exposed here like you are in Kenya or, many developing countries. So That was a challenge for me, but God is good, and He provides for times of mourning and times of joy as well. And I think it's just learning to focus on the joy, and learning that God will provide. I think that's what has made the difference.
What do you think? What are your biggest challenges?
I think for me, like even now, just kind of trying to understand what to get involved with and what not to get involved with. Like with Ashley being the doctor, her role is fairly defined in that, there's certain wards or time she's on call or that type of thing's pretty well defined. Whereas myself, I went there knowing we were going to be doing homeschooling with the kids, but other than that, it's pretty open. So kind of knowing what projects I should be involved in, which ones I should not be, to what level. That's probably my challenge, because there's an abundance of things to do, but how should I be doing in different environmental areas. So, like you mentioned too, just being a resource limited setting, most of my projects are construction related, and it's very common for us to begin discussing something and then just continue discussing it for a good year and a half, 2 years, and not actually executing on anything for a long period of time, just having that patience to let processes unfold naturally as opposed to trying to force them, which is what we like to do. But we don't do that, but it's your nature, you want to do that. So just the work-life balance too, trying to make sure do a good job with the kids, homeschooling, and also being involved with various projects. Back to boundaries.
So now you guys have had kind of a unique circumstance with Oscar, your youngest, who you adopted there in Kenya. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's like to have an intercultural family now, and on the mission field, and now this is your first time back with him, right? So how is that going? And tell us, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that. I think I'd love to hear more.
So Oscar came to us when he was 3 days old. So we've had him his entire life. He's almost 4.5 now. So he's grown up. In Kenya, our family's very well accepted. We've never had any negative comments or really anything negative. If people comment on our family out in public, it's usually like a congratulations rather than, any sort of anything negative. So in Kenya, it's really easy for us to be a mixed family. We really, we don't really notice unless we go to Nairobi, and then maybe we might get a look or two, but it's not a big deal at all. This is our first trip to America with Oscar, our first trip as a family, since we went in 2014. And I don't know, so far, we've only been in the States for 2 weeks, so so far it's going great. I haven't really noticed any change from Oscar. He's obviously, noticing things in America that are different than things in Kenya.
I think that's a big change for him.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to, see what he notices. But yeah, we're really thankful that, we were able to get him a tourist visa, which allowed us to come home. It was that 4.5 years. The only reason we stayed 4.5 years without coming home was because we couldn't bring Oscar with us. So
it's been hard.
It's been really hard. Yeah. For a time it felt like we were stuck in Kenya. But the Lord provided this visa, and we pray that He'll continue to provide visas so that we can come back for furlough on a regular basis.
I think it was also kind of like a testimony or witness to the community too, because culturally they don't do a lot of adoption. There's some stigma against it actually, not for us to adopt Oscar, but even for nationals to adopt other nationals. There's some little bit of stigma against that. But it was very well accepted within the community, and if anything, it was a good testimony to the locals, and they as I said, they thought it was a good thing. People would say, "Oh, you're the one who's supposed to words travels like wildfire out there. It's a small community. People talk. So I think it's more. It's been, I think, a good testimony to the community.
You told me a little of the story about how he came into your family. Would you mind sharing just a brief synopsis of that?
Yeah.
I thought it was a great story. Really.
So Oscar was born about 30 minutes away from our hospital in a smaller county hospital. And shortly after delivery, his biological mother became very sick. She had a lot of respiratory issues. And so she was loaded up in the back of a truck with a 5-pound baby and transferred to Kapsowar. And so when she got tested, she was very sick. I was the one that took care of her. It was a Friday afternoon when she arrived, and I was on call for the weekend. So she was my patient, and as soon as she came, we recognized how sick she was. We transferred her to the ICU right away, but by Saturday morning, it was pretty clear that she was not going to survive. There was a man that was with her who was her boyfriend, and they were not married, and he was very quick to say that Oscar was not his child. Even before the biological mother died, he was already just letting us know. So Saturday morning, when we knew that she wasn't going to survive, the OB-GYN that was there at the time, she came in with me, and her name was Gladys. We held her hands and we prayed with her, and we asked her if she knew Jesus, and she said yes. And it wasn't very long after that she passed away. And Oscar was there, and he was tiny, and the man that was with Gladys, and he told us, if you give me this baby, I'm just going to wring his neck and throw him in the ditch because I can't take care of a newborn baby. So we said, don't do that. And then we just told him that we would figure it out. We didn't tell him, we'll take care of him, or we just said, we'll figure it out. You just go. And so from that point on, Oscar he spent a couple days with the OB-GYN that was with us, and then he came with us. And, Mike and I always knew, even before we were married, we discussed adoption. We knew it was something we would do eventually, but we had heard that adoption in Kenya was nearly impossible, which has proved to be true for us even now. But because of that, we did not think we would adopt in Kenya. So, it wasn't on our minds for that period in our life, but we were open to adoption for sure. So, once Oscar was there, we talked to a children's officer, sort of like a DHS worker, and he gave us our options, and we decided to go ahead and keep Oscar sort of as a foster child. And then from there, we just progressed until we were able to obtain legal guardianship. But that took 3 years to get full legal guardianship. It wasn't an easy process. So we actually have not yet adopted Oscar because the Kenyan government has shut that down. But, we're praying eventually we'll be able to adopt.
And a lot of people praying for that here.
Yes. Yeah.
So what have been your biggest blessings since you've been on the field there at Kapsowar?
Probably the family life. I think that's a common theme that we hear, but I think it's pretty true. The life that the kids get, the freedom on the mission station to run and play, and just be exposed to a different culture. They probably don't even realize it themselves, but they are raised differently than they probably would be even with the same parents in the States. They would have much different upbringing there. Positive one, I think. Another kind of blessing kind of goes along with the adoption thing. Just being involved in a continuous ministry. I think a lot of people seek that in churches here. They want to be involved in the church. They want to be involved in ministry, and sometimes you feel like you're not being very productive in maybe what you're doing because it's a sporadic, maybe a weekend thing or every month thing that you're involved in a certain ministry. And I think it's a blessing to be able to be involved in a full-time ministry there to continuously as our life, just the work of the Lord is what we do, medicine and engineering and construction. And it's kind of the way we felt about adoption or foster care too. It's a very continuous 24/7 ministry that you're doing. Not that you think about it on a day-to-day basis, but it kind of unfolds that way.
I would agree with the family life. You know, as a working mom, I work full-time, even a little more than full-time in Kapsowar, but you know, it's a different lifestyle in that when I'm not at work, I'm at home. You know, there aren't meetings, there's no sports activities or school activities or church activities. It's work or it's home. And so even when I'm working a lot of hours, I usually get to come home for lunch, or you know, I'm home in the evening when I'm not on call. So that part of it it's really beautiful. It's, you know, we like to say that it's like the 1950s. Like the kids run outside all day long, and when they get hungry, they come home for supper. And so that aspect of it, has been really. It's just really nice, and it's something that I didn't expect. You know, I didn't anticipate it being the blessing that it is. Like it's been a surprise, but a good one.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. It's great to have you here. Right in quarters for the first time.
That's good again.